Thought I'd take you on a little field trip with me this week for our life group study. I'm here in Springfield, Missouri. Came down here with Robin. She had a work deal, so I decided to work mobile and join her and work from the hotel room and around various sites and here in Springfield, Missouri. So behind me, we have Mercy Medical Center, which used to be called St. John's Medical Center. It's where our first baby was born. He's no longer a baby. He's 22 years old, but you know how it is as parents. Your kids are always little babies. Anyway, let me just share you a story of why I'm standing here as we look at Psalms 23 verse 4. Even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I'll fear no evil because you're with me. It was here at this hospital behind me almost 23 years ago that we were expecting our first child. And so we came to the hospital. Robin was ready for delivery. It was an exciting day. And we arrived with an entourage of friends and co-youth sponsors that would help us in the youth ministry that we were involved in. And it was a long night. I can remember we sent everyone home. They said, hey, you're going to be here for a while. The baby's kind of progressing slow. The delivery's progressing slow. And so behind me, I would have took you inside to walk the hallways and show you the terrain, but they've remodeled the hospital several times. And to be honest, I couldn't find the old labor and delivery in the ICU units and whatnot. But even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. We were Bible college students just months away from graduating and heading out into the world of ministry, our lives dedicated to the Lord and commissioned by Him to go and preach the gospel. And this was a pit stop before that journey began to have our first child. Austin was born here, but he was born not easily, but with complications. See, the night before his delivery, we walked the valley began. We walked the hallways of this hospital trying to get the labor going and going and going. And I guess he was just so comfortable in his mama's womb, he didn't want to come. But we walked for hours in the hallways throughout the night, throughout the midnight hours in this hospital. And I can remember walking by rooms and hearing people moaning and coughing and gasping and wheezing for help. And I thought, wow, man, I pray for those people. Little did I know that it would be me in a matter of hours that would be coveting people's prayer. Finally, Austin came. He was born, and we waited. And they said, hey, we got to take him back, clean him up a little bit. Moved Robin to her room, her recovery room. We were there, and we waited. And as we were waiting, it was like something's not right. And it was like the valley walls were getting taller and steeper, and the valley that we were approaching in was getting narrower. And so we waited and we waited throughout the afternoon, and we were like, hey, what's going on? No one told us what was going on. We were just kind of at a loss. And then finally, the nurse came in and said, hey, listen, your baby's sick, and we're going to have to put him in the NICU unit. He has pneumonia, he has a blood infection, and we're not sure what's going to transpire. As you can imagine, our hearts were traumatized. Fear enveloped us, and we were tired. We were emotionally spent. A sleepless night, the night before walking. You know, Fitbits were a thing back then. We crashed our 10,000 step rule that night. But so finally, they allowed us to go back into where Austin was at right before they put him in the NICU unit. And we walked into this room, me and Robin, and to hear our son wheezing, gasping for breath. You know that sound. If you ever heard anyone with pneumonia, that it just hurts your lungs. That was our baby boy. And they took him back to the NICU unit a little bit later that evening. We were able to go in and see him again. And he was all wired up, IVs, just lines going in and out of him. He had this little dome helmet on for oxygen. And so it was so traumatic, so intense. And it felt like the valley was so huge and so dark. Here we had committed our life to the Lord. Here we had committed to the Lord, um, our future. And we were looking at this little baby, and if I could be honest, the thought went through my mind, God, I committed to serve you. Why is this happening? Why is my little boy in this condition? Have you ever had those thoughts? I mean, I know God was with me, and I know God was okay with things that were going through my heart and my mind, because thankfully, he's so much bigger than that. But we spent 12 days here in the NIC unit with Austin. It was a valley time. And I can remember as we were going through that season, I was still in college. Robin had quit her job at working at headquarters for the Assemblies of God. And I would go to class in the morning as the second semester started. Then I would go to work, and I would work all afternoon. And then I would run up here. I would be changing my clothes out of my work clothes. And I would run up, and I would see them, spend as much time as I could. And then I would have to go to go study or what. So it was a chaotic 12 days. Fortunately, Robin's mom and came up and spent time with her, helped us through that season. And I can remember, and then we moved on to Austin coming home. He came home on a alert system that would let us know if he quit breathing during the night. He came home on caffeine, and so it's just so traumatic. And it was a huge valley, and we learned lessons about ourselves through that valley. But one thing we learned, that you have to keep walking as you're in that valley, because the intention is not for you, not for me, not for us during that season to stay in the valley. Our intention, God's intention, was to walk through, because there was something that he wanted to do, something that he wanted to show us. And so I'm going to take you for a little field trip and show you the next part of this valley. So this is the rest of the story. I am at what used to be James River Assembly Church. The Sunday was March 9th, 1996. So we are just, at that point, it's just about 2 months after Austin was born. And I find myself here on a Sunday morning. Robin is not with me, but the pastor is preaching from James chapter 5, verse 14. If any one of you is sick, let him call for the elders of the church, and let the elders anoint him with oil, and the prayer offered in faith will heal the sick person. Robin's at home in western Kansas with her parents. I'm here, and something's going on within me. And there's this, I wish Robin and Austin were here, but they weren't. But at the end of the service, I went forward right in this spot, right where I'm standing. Even though Austin wasn't with me, I knew that this was part of the valley that I had to press on through. We'd been walking through this valley now for almost 2 months, and we'd wake up in the middle of the night with alarms going off where Austin had quit breathing, and so we had to shake him or whatever, get up in the middle of the night when he was in the NIC unit and call, see how he was doing, hear reports like, man, he just had a bottle, he's doing good, just burped like a truck driver. Nothing makes a dad prouder to hear a nurse say that your son burps like a truck driver. So anyway, but now it's March 9th, and I'm here. I go forward, a couple of the prayer team gather around me, and they pray for me. And I left this building that Sunday going, God did something. And I can remember going home with excitement and anticipation. And I called Rob, and I was like, man, I wish you guys were here. And we had conversations. She's like, I wish you were here. God did something here today. And from that moment on, from March 9th, 1996, Austin never had another alert, another episode of apnea where he would quit breathing. And you could say, well, he was going to grow out of that. Well, that's what they said. They said that it would take 6 months, but we're not even at the 2-month mark, and God healed him. We have documentation to show, hey, he never had another alert. But in the midst of that valley, that was a dark season. But we had people all over the globe praying for us. missionaries and people that we'd met through our time at CBC, and friends and family members gathering around us and praying for us, looking out for us. Today, in our text in your small group, you read about David having a crisis valley moment. His father-in-law was after him. He wanted to kill him. And so he's fleeing, running for his life. Yet God is watching over him. And from the words during that season and other seasons in David's life, he knew it to be true. Though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, you're with me. You're with me there. And I just want to remind you, I don't know what your week is. I don't know what necessarily the season is that you have been going through, but I want to remind you of something. He's there with you. And I want to remind you of something else. You need to keep walking through this valley, because as you walk, you're getting closer to the green pastures that he promises you. And you're getting closer to understanding the fullness of who he is. And so keep walking. As you gather and have discussion at the end of your time today, I want to encourage you to gather around those in your group that maybe are going through a valley and need their life group, and pray for them. Would you do that? God bless you. Have a great discussion. And remember, he is with you always. Keep pressing on, man. We love you.